All right. Great to be live with you guys here today. And we have Paul. We have Ram.
Hey.
Paul, are you sharing or going to share?
Yeah, I should be sharing. Should be good to go.
No, we don't see the slides. There we go. Now we do. Perfect. All right. Well, we'll give everybody just a few seconds to join into our live stream today. I hope everybody's having good and fair weather wherever they are. I'm in the Bay Area, and we have tons of rain. Much needed, but tons of rain today. So
for us, extreme weather?
Extreme, yeah, exactly. It's there's that liquid falling from the sky, so we're still trying to figure it out. Anyway, so I see we're 1 minute after the hour, and it's probably appropriate for us to go ahead and get started with our live stream. So welcome everybody who's joined to What's New with Semaphore AI. We're very excited that you joined us today. My name is John Kreisa. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Semaphore. I'm joined by two of our co-founders, which I'm very excited to be co-hosting with. One, Ram Venkatesh. Ram, introduce yourself, please.
Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. One of the co-founders here at Semaphore.
Great. Thank you. And Paul?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name's Paul Codding, another co-founder at Semaphore. I run our product and user experience team. So super happy to be here and share some of the cool work that we've been up to.
So as far as hearing about what's new with Semaphore, what's new in our platform, we absolutely have the right gentleman on with us today. So if we could get a click, we have an exciting agenda for you today. First, you may or may not have heard of Semaphore before, so we thought we'd give you just a very brief overview of who Semaphore is. You might be researching what AI and agentic AI specifically is good for and whether or not it would be good for your organization. So we thought we'd cover a couple of use cases just briefly to give you an idea of how it's being put into production today at various customers. Then we'll give a short overview of our platform, just how is it structured, what does it look like, what does it do? And then we'll dive into some details, including some demos around what's new. And we'll have time at the end for questions. You can certainly use the chat to put your questions in at any time, and we'll be monitoring that, but also we'll save time for live Q&A there at the end. So if we'll go ahead and have one more click, please. So just briefly about Semaphore, who are we? Well, we've got a very experienced team building enterprise software, at taking software that's open source or maybe a little raw around the edges and bringing it to the enterprise, making it safe for the enterprise to consume. And you can see a couple of the companies that we've worked at before, SpringSource, Hortonworks, Cloudera, Microsoft, a bunch of companies that have successfully brought software to the enterprise and made it safe for them to consume. Well, our mission at Semaphore specifically is to deliver the world's best platform for building, running, and managing purpose-built enterprise AI agents. And of course, we'll talk a lot about how we're doing that and what we mean by that, but that's our mission in life. Our platform specifically, as you'll hear more about, unites business users, the process owners that want to automate a process using agents, with IT, who has to go about managing that and making it safe for the enterprise, with developers who integrate that technology with other enterprise systems, both internal and external. So that's what our platform does, and enables those agents to be built and deployed. Now, our customers, when they build agents, what kind of agents do they build? They build these accurate, deterministic agents, very, very accurate mathematically, and they are for complex multi-step workloads, right? They're very data-centric, and you'll see some of the examples of the capabilities, in particular some of the new capabilities we've just brought to market around how we bring those agents to market. And with that, I will actually turn it over to Ram to continue with the update. Ram?
Thank you, John. So yeah, as John said, right, we are an enterprise AI agent platform. These days, AI agents come in many different shapes and sizes. So next couple slides, I want to give you a sense of what are the kinds of use cases that are good for Semaphore, right? So at the core of everything we do is this notion that agents have to be able to accurately execute the work for them to be relevant in an enterprise context, right? So without accuracy, it's really hard for you to think about like financial workflows of any kind. So in the Semaphore approach, essentially, we believe that agents have to be really good at following standard work plans, and then with full understanding of sort of the end-to-end scope of the business process that is being automated. You need to be able to also reason through all of the data that is both, the structured data, of course, but also semi-structured data that's sitting in documents and unstructured data, so that you can actually get at very accurate outcomes that are enabled by the way that our agents use data for the most part. So there's two kinds of agent use cases that are really good for the platform. One is a conversational agent where you're interacting with the agent to go get work done. And the other is a more autonomous worker agent where the agent can respond to a system trigger like the availability of a file or a time duration or watch an inbox or things of that nature, and actually do the work in an autonomous way end to end. One of the things to point out is that both for conversational and for worker agents, when it comes to exception handling in particular, there's a pretty robust mechanism for end users to be able to interject themselves into the context of the workflow to understand what's going on and make sure that you can get that execution back on track if you needed to, right? So that's the sort of what types of problems can our agents solve is both conversational as well as these scheduled work, if you will. So we've seen these agents being deployed in a wide variety of enterprise use cases. Paul, if you don't mind advancing one more, please. Thank you. From a use case standpoint, there's a vast amount of digital paper, if you will. These are things like, goods receipt notices, invoices, wire remittance slips, customs bill of lading, things of that nature that have a very operational feel to them, right? So these are documents that you have to understand in the context of a business process that's happening. So that's been a big area of focus for us is around manufacturing, operations, and safety, where there's a fair amount of these kinds of documents, but also a significant concentration around financial operations. So this is where core processes like invoice reconciliation, remittance processing, payment processing, general ledger reconciliation, expense management, all of these are scenarios which require a high degree of numerical accuracy. These are the kinds of use cases where customers are seeing value from deploying Semaphore. So usually this means that we start somewhere in the office of the CFO or in the office of finance transformation. And then there are adjacent use cases that open up specifically upstream in terms of procurement and then downstream in terms of payment processing and vendor management and so on. So that's a fair, hopefully that gives you a sense of the kinds of use cases that customers have built using the platform to date. But the real event we want to focus on today was from these use cases, or in the process of getting some of these use cases out to production, there's a set of key enterprise capabilities that we've enabled in the latest release of the platform. And this is where I would love for Paul to take you through the stack and what's new in Semaphore.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan. Yep. So, hey, folks, what I'm going to do is spend just a few minutes giving you a quick overview of the stack as far as, we'll cover kind of what's new in the platform, but I want to make sure everyone understands, what are the kind of core capabilities we have and products before we dive into the latest and greatest. So I'll start with the upper left here. This is Studio. This is your kind of self-contained environment for building, testing, and validating agents. It's downloadable for Windows or Mac. This is really kind of the heart of the product where you go to be able to describe the work that you want to do, create your agents, test and validate those agents directly, within your local environment. These are powered by our natural language runbooks that allow you to just in plain text describe this is the work that I want my agent to do. We have our SI built-in copilot that helps you kind of build good runbooks and construct your agent and all of our capabilities to be able to build, test, and validate in Studio. When it comes to how you connect agents themselves to the rest of your enterprise applications, it could be Salesforce, it could be Zendesk, Microsoft SharePoint, Google Workspaces, etc. That's where our actions come in. So we have our action gallery that has a whole pre-built set of actions that you can use to connect to enterprise applications, along with a full-featured SDK that enables you to really quickly build custom actions to integrate with your custom enterprise APIs or the applications that only exist in your cloud environment or data center. They're unique to your business. Once you've built your agent, you go to control room. You can publish your agent there to be able to deploy it and share it with the right set of business users that'll be working with or supervising your agent. Control room allows you to have individual workspaces for business units, centrally manage all your configuration, things like LLM keys, secrets, connections to your different data assets, all in one place. And every new business user that onboards links their studio to control room, and all their configuration shows up automatically for them. And then we've got our workroom. This is where business users go. You can think of it kind of like a portal for seeing and discovering all the different agents that they have access to, working with and supervising agents. Finally, we have our APIs. This is what a lot of our ISV customers use to integrate the agents that they've built directly into their SaaS applications, or our enterprise customers use this to integrate agents that they've built directly into their existing enterprise apps. Our agent orchestration layer is really kind of how we pull a lot of key core concepts together. How do we take the work that the agent needs to perform in the runbook, along with the different actions to connect to agents to the different enterprise apps and data, to be able to orchestrate that end-to-end consistent multi-step work that Ram and John had talked to you about. Our data intelligence tier is really critical for empowering agents to be able to quickly connect to different data databases, things like Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery, and more, as well as our document intelligence suite that enables agents to deeply understand documents. It could be PDFs, Word documents, Excel files, images. This is really where we've spent a lot of time making sure that agents have really high quality access to different documents to be able to kick off these end-to-end work and then multi-step workflows. Our knowledge base is also a core capability that allows you to quickly put unstructured data into a central store that the agents have access to, that they can really quickly perform lookups, look up answers to common questions, or be able to search and review unstructured data within seconds. All this is kind of built on our security and governance framework, and we support the latest large language models from OpenAI, from Anthropic, whether you be on AWS Bedrock or Microsoft Azure OpenAI, or even Snowflake Cortex. We have 2 different deployment methods. Our Enterprise Edition runs directly on AWS, so all your agents run in your AWS VPC, and our Team Edition runs directly in your Snowflake environment, so directly on Snowpark Container Services using our Snowflake native application. So that's a quick kind of overview of the product itself, giving you a sense for the different components we have. And now we'll flip over and talk about what's new. What are some of the things that we've just recently released in our 1.6 release? And I'll start here on the upper left. I think one of the core capabilities that we've added is DataFrames. You can think of DataFrames as a kind of in-memory data workspace for our agents. It allows our agents to be able to quickly, process things like spreadsheets, pull data from documents, data from databases into a common workspace, dynamically create tables, join that data together with mathematical accuracy. We've seen some amazing results with DataFrames, reducing token consumption by up to 94%, giving you 100% accuracy because we use SQL, be able to really quickly combine multiple different spreadsheets, along with data from databases together to really be able to tackle complex data-related work. Document intelligence, we've completely revamped. So we have the ability to really quickly parse data without any kind of configuration required, as well as do very detailed analysis of 200 plus page PDFs, deeply nested tables. So our focus here has been, providing the best in class accuracy with the least amount of configuration as possible, enabling you to start processing documents with your agents really quickly. Reasoning models, this has been a key enabler for a lot of the more complex work that our customers have started building agents to tackle. And this is taking advantage of things like Cloud 4.5, Sonnet, and Haiku, as well as OpenGPT, in this case, GPT-5, O3, and O4 Mini as well. Our worker agents, we've had worker agents in the platform for a while that have really been focused on document-centric work. In this release, we've completely opened them up, allowing you to integrate worker agents into your AWS Lambda environment or Azure Functions, or we have a custom work item API that allows you to be able to really quickly plug worker agents into the rest of your enterprise. As Raman mentioned, they can watch shared email inboxes. They can be triggered when new data arrives, new documents land in S3 or new documents appear in Box, for example, really enabling your agents to be able to react to the enterprise. And then on the upper right, we have SAI. So SAI is our built-in copilot within Studio itself that helps you really quickly go from, I have a problem statement, this is the type of agent I want to create, to building a fully functional agent with your runbook and all the different actions and everything built in. We've extended SAI so that it's now part of our runbook editor and part of the agent edit experience. So it'll help you build better runbooks faster and build your agents quicker. And then I'll quickly cover just Team Edition. So within Team Edition, this is for our Snowflake environment. We've added support to really quickly be able to link Studio to our Snowflake environment using OAuth. So this vastly simplifies authenticating your business users to be able to use your Snowflake data in your Snowflake environment. So now I'll kind of jump in and talk about some more of these details. One, we'll start with DataFrames, right? So with DataFrames, we want to make it as easy as possible for business users to be able to quickly build agents that work with spreadsheets. You can upload Excel files, CSV files, and our agents pull all that data into their in-memory data workspace, dynamically creating tables, being able to join that data together and analyze it using just natural language queries. So things of like analytics, asking questions of your data, as well as transformation are both covered with DataFrames. It allows you to have high accuracy, very, very quick, data manipulation, data analysis directly within your agent itself. And our goal with DataFrames is really to unify all the different data that the agent needs access to, whether it be files or data, large result sets, from things like Snowflake or BigQuery or Redshift, as well as data that we extract from documents. Providing a secure in-memory data workspace for our agent allows it to tackle more use cases without having to worry about LLM context windows and the inaccuracy that is inherent with LLMs when it comes to doing any kind of complex mathematical analysis. We've solved both with DataFrames. We're really excited about it. So to kind of put this into practice, we'll talk about a quick use case that we've delivered for a customer. This is a complex receipt reconciliation use case. You can think of it at the end of the month. This customer has a large amount of data in their ERP that's stored in Snowflake, along with multiple different rail and transit receipts that they have to reconcile across all their different plants. And this is a process that took people hours and hours at the end of every single month, and was a complex process that they wanted to automate with our platform. So what we'll do is I'll just jump over to Studio here real quick, and I'll show you how we solve that problem. So for those of you that are new, to Semaphore on our platform, this is Studio. You can download it for Mac and Windows. We make it simple to build agents from templates. You can build them from scratch. You can also, like I mentioned before, use SAI to kind of go from problem statement to agent really quickly. But we're going to take a look at this individual agent here. This is our receipt reconciliation agent. So what we want to do in this case is upload a few different CSV files, ask it to reconcile that data, and combine it with the data that we actually have in Snowflake. So we can open up our runbook editor, and in our runbook editor, you'll see what's new. SAI is here. We can actually use it to improve my runbook or kind of help me build a new runbook from scratch. This gives me the ability to have SAI kind of analyze my runbook and provide point suggestions, or kind of help me with a new draft. But in this runbook, it's pretty simple. It describes some of the data that we have available to us, and then just describes what's the steps that we need to take and how to reconcile data between our SAP data and our different data that we have within our spreadsheets. So it's as simple as just uploading a few spreadsheets. You can see that in our details here, the agent's doing a lot of work. It's actually dynamically creating these different data frames for each of the steps of the analysis. So first it's loading our railcar data, then data from our trucking system, identifying any kind of duplicate bill of ladings, and then it's kind of showing its work. So with each of the types of slicing and dicing of that data that it has to make, you're seeing different versions, of these data frames. And each of them are self-describing, so you can kind of see exactly what each of them do. And at the end of it, we can see the actual reconciliation report. So what's missing? What are the specific discrepancies that I found across these different systems? It makes it really easy to be able to quickly write a simple natural language runbook, upload a few files and have the agent go to work without having to write any kind of detailed SQL or write any kind of custom actions. So a really big enabler for helping you quickly deal with and manage and transform Excel spreadsheets and CSVs. So the next thing I want to kind of cover is just like it's in SI. So there's 2 capabilities that we've added within the runbook editor: the ability to ask for improvements. So in this case, I will analyze your runbook, identify areas that we can improve either the kind of accuracy or efficiency of the agent, and then provide suggested edits that you can either discard or revise. And we've also added SI to the agent edit experience. So if you want to get help, generating descriptions or picking actions or even creating a conversation guide, so I can help you do that all automatically, given all the context that you have, within the agent itself. The next thing I wanted to kind of talk through was document intelligence. So as I mentioned at the top of the call, our focus with document intelligence is how do we provide the most accurate extraction of data from your PDFs or Word docs or Excel files with the least amount of configuration. That's our real goal. We want to make this as accessible, to end users as possible. So we support, 3 major ways of working with documents. The first is parsing. So in this case, no configuration required, upload a supported file. We will do our work to analyze and parse that data as best as we can and get that back to the agent in a really efficient manner. The second is extraction. And this is focused on if you want to do very detailed, fine-grained extraction of data from one of these supported documents, if there's specific tables or specific fields or a very specific way that you want that data to look consistently for your agent, we support extraction. We also support the ability to automatically identify novel documents, match them to a data model that you define, and automatically provide a consistent data model directly to your agent. The last is extracting and searching. So it's kind of combining 2 concepts together, doing detailed extraction of data from your documents, as well as indexing them in our knowledge base. So you have a combination of full text search as well as detailed extraction. So I'll just kind of show you quickly, what that process looks like. In this case, I have a document that I've just uploaded to my agent. It automatically parses that document, shows me a quick summary of what's in it. But if I want to use document intelligence to really kind of get a better sense for how do we understand this document? What do we see? I can use this interface. So this kind of gives us a quick view of, at a high level first pass, what do we see in the document? And then we do a detailed second pass, so you can actually see these are the individual kind of fields and tables that we've detected, how we're understanding the data, within this document itself. If at any time I actually want to configure exactly how this should work and identify the specific fields or the specific tables or specific treatment, I can create a data model. And what that data model allows you to do is, identify what data do you actually want to persist in a consistent way. What are some of the tables that you want? Maybe you don't want all tables, only some. And then provide some detailed description of what this means to you from a business context perspective, so that we can help you with the natural language analysis of that document. And then once that all looks good, the next step is to define some data quality checks. So our data quality checks are really focused on natural language expressions that enable you to quickly help us understand what are the types of validation that you want to perform against this document. So you can think of it as, what's the work that you do as a human, working with this document? What are the checks that you, kind of quickly eyeball to be like, okay, let me sum up the line items, make sure they, match the invoice total. Let me make sure I actually have a valid invoice number, et cetera. And you can, we suggest, 3, but you can always add your own. And that's all you need to do, right? Our AI automatically detects and the fields and tables and suggests these data quality checks. You just need to review and amend it to make sure it fits your use case. The next thing I want to cover quickly is our worker agents. So like I mentioned before, we've had worker agents in the platform for a while that we're really focused on documents. So a document lands, how do you automate the end-to-end work that you want to perform around that document? In this release, we've expanded worker agents to be able to also integrate with things like AWS Lambda, Azure Functions. We have a whole RESTful work item API that allows you to trigger agents based on any of the events you might have, with a full set of callbacks, and a complete status management system. So you can quickly see within your agent, what is it working on, what has it worked on, what needs review, and what maybe it is in an error state that I need to kind of jump in and check out. And like I mentioned, these are all integrated, with your existing enterprise event integration systems. So if we kind of take a look at a quick few examples here, I have a help desk agent. In this case, it's looking for, what are the different ServiceNow tickets that land? What are the different attachments in that ServiceNow ticket? How do I use document intelligence to quickly parse those and then use my runbook to be able to better assess how to respond to that specific vendor request? And so each of our work items here are triggered via, in this case, Lambda, looking for new ServiceNow tickets. The agent can automatically process that data. Each of these agents have a payload. In this case, this payload is really focused on, what information is sent from the upstream system. It uses its runbook and a set of actions to work through that specific invoice, complete it, and update the status. So each of our kind of work items have a set of states that they can go through, making it really simple to see kind of what work has the agent done, where is it at, and integrate directly within your application. And so those are kind of like the quick highlights, that I wanted to share with the team. I know that Ram has been kind of looking through the different questions that folks have had. And as we're, as you're thinking about your question, definitely want to encourage you to stay engaged. We have a lot of great blogs we've written, that really kind of highlight the key capabilities that were introduced in this release. Those are available on our website. If you want to get in touch with us, we can help you walk through any one of these capabilities with a custom demo. I'm going to encourage you to use the QR code to download Studio so you can start trying some of this stuff out yourself. But definitely, if you're if you're using Snowflake, you can find us in the Snowflake Marketplace. All right, just look for our Semaphore Team Edition, and feel free to follow us at Semaphore AI. But I think what I'll do is pass it over to John and Ram to kind of summarize one of the questions we've seen so far, and just feel free to use the chat to drop us any questions you might have.
Thanks, Paul. Great job. I mean, with the demo showing how all of the new features are directly impacting customers, what the value is, that was a great demonstration of what's new in Semaphore. So appreciate that. We do have a couple questions in the chat already, and I would encourage anybody else who is on to feel free to go ahead and ask your own question. Let me start with the first question. I'll give this to you, Ram. How long does it take to build an agent?
Like any of these open-ended questions, I think the true answer is, of course, it depends, right? I would say that what we see most commonly in our customer base is that it's nice to start simple. So this is the kind of agent where it might be doing a couple things, a few steps with a couple Excel files. That is where people usually start. This kind of an agent, you can get going very, very rapidly. So the idea is you can have an agent perform an analytic and get to an outcome using a built-in action in a very small number of days, right? So if you have sample pieces of data to work from, that's really convenient. Now, a real production agent could be, you also have to integrate into your backend systems, which means you got to understand sort of what security protocols you're going to use to connect, what kinds of data will the agent have access to, et cetera, et cetera. And as the kind of work that the agent is doing is going to require more involvement from your process stakeholders to actually build the agent, that's the kind of an agent where you could take 2 to 4 weeks to build an agent that looks like that. But in either of these two, right, the key thing is that it's about the complexity of the agent, not the complexity of the process. Paul could do a demo for you where he would use Psi, and you can build an entire end-to-end functioning agent in 20 minutes. But in the spirit of sort of what is realistic for an enterprise, I would say a small number of days for a proof of concept value agent, and then small number of weeks for an agent that can actually do work that the business user can relate to and say, yep, that's something that we'd want to deploy.
Got it. Thank you. Nice. Paul, question for you. Going to the DataFrames capability, which is clearly kind of essential for helping organizations, do the best, take advantage of the data that they have both in documents and in structured formats. How does DataFrames save a company money? Like what architecturally, what's different about it, and how does that work?
Yeah, I think DataFrames helps with times, token, and accuracy. Those are the three things. I think, it significantly reduces the amount of time that it takes for you to be able to analyze your data. you don't have to, if you have data in a CSV file or Excel file, you don't have to worry about ETLing it into a database and doing all the data engineering work to kind of get it ready for your agent. You can just drag it in, use natural language to transform that data, and ask questions of your agent with that data. The other is tokens. So in this case, all of it is stored in memory. We don't ship that data to the LLM and then kind of have to pull the result sets and responses back and forth. Everything's done in memory in the agent itself, so it significantly reduces token consumption. And then accuracy, which in my mind is the most important. Most of the customers that we work with are building agents that have to handle complex financial calculations, and you want to make sure that that is done with 100% accuracy. Under the covers, we use SQL, to be able to perform our analytics. It gives us that, 100% accuracy for the complex type of calculations that you you expect, compared to leaving them up to the LLM to make and dealing with some of the inconsistencies that you often see. So it really helps, in those kind of 3 dimensions.
Yeah, I mean, those are all 3. I mean, all 3 of them are important. You wouldn't want to do, without any one of those dimensions in terms of trusting your data and trusting the agent to do the work that you need it to do, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
In fact, to put a bow on it, I would say those 3 individually mean that you can build a functional agent much faster. So these questions are actually related, that by using things like DataFrames, the business user doesn't have to walk over to IT and have somebody write a query for them, etc. They can specify that the work that they want. They can end up with an end-to-end functioning agent in a dramatically simpler amount of time. So this work directly came from work that we have done with customers who use the V1 of our data stack to actually build out the queries by hand and build an agent. That process could take them like 2 to 4 weeks. Paul, what is the new number with DataFrames for that same use case?
Yeah, it was 2 days.
That's the speed up here, is like you can have a functioning agent in days. That's also accurate.
Yeah, that's impressive. Another question I know we commonly get is, what do the teams look like who are developing these? I mean, I mentioned at the front that there's a process owner, but like, what does the kind of full team look like, Ram? You want to?
Yeah. So building an agent today is typically it's 3 people are involved in making this happen, right? So one is the customer has to know the work. Semaphore agents, we are not out of the box agents for XYZ function, right? So customers ask us, what do we need to bring to build a successful agent? We'd say somebody who knows the work, who can tell what good looks like, who can help us evaluate the accuracy and the outcome of the agent. That's super critical. That's the process owner over in the line of business. And it's really important to have that person they have to feel ownership for the agent. Because the thing about agents is it's not a one-shot thing. It's not like you build an agent and it never changes, but somebody's got to be able to continue to improve the agent as the needs of the business change. And that's the business process owner working in studio for us, right? The second important stakeholder here is the person who's responsible for connecting the agent to the enterprise. So this is, you have a bunch of data sources already, you have a bunch of backend applications, the connectors that they're going to use to actually talk to the agents. So these are the 2 parts. Think of this as the business process owner is telling the agent what the work is, what it should do. And then the technical person is helping create the tools and the queries as they're required to actually hit these backend systems. So these days with MCP integration in particular, you might already have an existing tool for the particular backend you're looking for, but it still needs help from the technical person to make sure that it's the right one. How does authentication happen? So a whole bunch of things that the business user will need help figuring out. So that's the second stakeholder. And then the third one is the operations person, right? So where these agents, there's a part of the agent story which the agent works just like enterprise software. So you have a new version of the agent. How do you put it through its paces? How do you deploy it? If your business is running on agents, if the agent is not able to talk to the LLM at 2 a.m, then your business has an outage, right? So to make sure that you don't have that, you're monitoring how these agents are behaving from an infrastructure standpoint. That is an operational function. So it's these 3 functions really that kind of have to come together to build an agent. But one of the interesting things we've noticed here is, at steady state, 90% of the changes to an agent, it's in the runbook. So this is why that continuous improvement by the business process owner, that's such a key part of making sure that you have an agent that's working well in practice.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, the ability for the business/process owner to make those updates on their own based on the changes to the process seems key in terms of speed and getting these agents, keeping them up to date with the processes as processes change as well. Like, it seems like an important difference. Maybe time for one final question, and I'll start with you, Paul. The new capabilities that we've added into the platform seem to really extend the kind of data handling functionality, along with the ability to do kind of complex multi-step workloads. How does it stack up competitively in terms of other agent capabilities, and whether it's by a specific competitor or just generally speaking what we're seeing in the market? You want to make a comment?
Yeah, no, of course. I think our focus, like Raman mentioned, is accuracy. That's really where we feel like that's what our customers demand from us, and that's what we deliver. And so accuracy for us is, from a data perspective, it's DataFrames. How do we make sure we can really provide accurate answers to natural language queries? Number two, it's with document intelligence, right? Accuracy for detailed extraction of critical data. You don't get bonus points if you can, extract at 50% accuracy fast. Like, it's got to be better than a human, right? Which is pretty accurate most of the time, right? So those are two kind of big things. And the accuracy also extends to just how the agent executes, right? I think for us, we put a lot of effort into making the runbook as accessible as possible, so that the people who are doing the work today, they have the ability to be able to write the runbook, really to kind of tell the agent how it works. But then the impetus is on us to make sure our agent orchestration layer can execute that runbook as consistently as it possibly can. That's another kind of accuracy area. And so a lot of the work we've done is really kind of in the guts of our agent to make sure that it can respect, the steps you have in the runbook, execute it with as high levels of consistency as we possibly can. And so I think that's the kind of key area for us, if that makes sense, John. Accuracy for, calculations and data frames, document extraction accuracy, and then following the instructions that the customer spent so much time
doing what you want it to do.
Yeah. And so those are the kind of the three core things for our agents. But I think from a competitive perspective too, we really feel like we want to make sure we have the right tool for the right job. As Raman mentioned, those other kind of personas are really important for developers. We want to make sure that we provide the best tooling for them to be able to build custom actions. MCP, awesome, love it, embrace it. There's a lot of interesting MCP servers out there, but every one of our production agents, they have some custom action that is required in order for that agent to be able to do its work. And so our VS Code extensions that work with Cursor, Cloud Code, et cetera, those are, developers love that, right? And then for operators, our core goal is how do we provide the tools that they need to be able to manage those agents at scale? Workspaces for isolation, access control, integration with OpenTelemetry, those are all table stakes for us. So we feel like we've got a really solid set of capabilities for business users to build accurate agents, tools to help developers to be able to build the actions that they need to connect enterprise, agents to the enterprise, and then finally making sure the operator has what they need to be able to run these things in production at scale.
No, that's great. Ram, anything you want to kind of add in on that?
I think that was pretty comprehensive. I guess the only thing I would say is it's really about it's horses for courses, right? So if you think of the way we are approaching this is, as Paul said, to net it out for the enterprise customer is if it's deep domain-specific complex work that requires some knowledge of the way your business operates, that's where we are focused on, right? So it's about, so the business process owner is just table stakes in what we're talking about here, right? So for that kind of an agent, and if you need to be able to, just to put it technically, count things, right? So if you have work that requires you to count things accurately, if these are the two characteristics that you have of the problem you're trying to solve, that is in the wheelhouse of what our agents can do really well. And you're going to build agents for lots of different purposes that may not be these, and I think that there's plenty of other ways to build them. But these two in particular are where our focus is and where we are very differentiated from others who are also helping you build agents.
Yeah, no, that's great. As I said in the beginning, we build, our platform builds enterprise AI agents right? And we very much mean that. It's what we're experienced at, and as I think Paul commonly says, we handle the hard mode type use cases that that other platforms and other solutions tend to fall down on. So anyway, I'll wrap us up there. I really appreciate being live with you two today. Thank you very much. Great job on telling everybody what we do and what's new in Semaphore. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah.
Paul.
Bye.